Okay, so I am going to show how we graph a system of equations. So say we start with a system like this. 3x minus y equals negative 3, and x plus 2y equals negative 8. So the first thing I want to do is look at the first equation, okay? So I'm going to look at my first equation over here, 3x, I'm going to put a number 1 here, and a number 2 here. So I'm not even going to consider equation 2 yet, at all. With equation 1, I'm going to make an xy table of values because I have the equation, and if I can come up with 2 to 3 points, I will be able to plot those down on my rectangular coordinate system and draw a straight line through them, and that's how I get the line from the equation. So the one thing that messes students up or tricks students is they're like, well, I don't understand how you find these points. I'm going to, again, this is just with equation 1 for right now, and then we'll do the exact same thing with equation 2 when we're done. But with equation 1, I'm going to pick a random point for x. I can pick anything I want. Now I want to try to be nice to myself because I'm going to have to graph this down. So I don't want huge numbers. I'm going to try to be nice. So I can pick, though, anything I want. I'm going to pick x equals 0, but I could just as easily pick x equals 1, or x equals negative 2, or x equals 4. So don't get caught up on what number I'm throwing in here. I'm just saying, what happens if x is 0? Because remember, this equation gives us a straight line, and a straight line is made up of infinitely number of points. Okay? So I'm just picking 1. So if x is 0, what is y to keep this, the solution to this equation the same? So basically, I'm going to start with this equation, but now I'm going to take the x, and I'm going to say, okay, if x is 0, what is y? So now instead of 3x, I have 3 times 0 minus y equals negative 3. So I just took this first equation and plugged in 0 for x. So now I have 3 times, should be a times there, times 0 minus y equals negative 3. Well, anything times 0 is 0. So I'm going to have 0. Sorry, my pen is not wanting to cooperate here. 0 minus y equals negative 3. So I have negative y equals negative 3. Gosh, I got kind of sloppy there. Okay, so negative y equals negative 3. And this is like a negative 1, right? So if I want to solve for y, I then have to divide both sides by negative 1. So then that means y equals this is a negative 3. I know it's kind of sloppy there, but that's a negative. Negative 3 divided by negative 1 is a positive 3. It's supposed to be 3. My writing tool is just not working very well. Let me try to switch what it's sitting on. So y equals negative 3. Or I mean y equals positive 3, sorry, because that was a negative 3 divided by a negative 1 there. So when x is 0, y is 3. Okay? So then I want to find a second point. So now I say, okay, well, what if x is positive 1? What happens then? So I do the exact same thing. I go and I'm going to kind of make it small down here. I use the original equation. So I'm not at equation 2 yet at all. I'm at, gosh, I cannot get my writing pen. I've got a new pen. Well, that's just a disaster. If I can reset everything, no. Let's try this. Okay, I had to clear it out. So again, that first equation was 3x minus y equals -3, right? This is just the first equation. Okay, and that's a negative. It's supposed to be negative there. So my first point that I got over here, remember, was when x was 0, I solved, and we got y was +3. So now I said, well, what if x was 1? So I'm going to plug a 1 here for x. So 3, and now x, remember, we said is going to be 1. So we get 3 times 1 is 3 minus y equals -3. And now I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides because I'm trying to solve for y. So those cancel out. 3 minus 3 is gone. So I have negative y is equal to -3 minus 3 is -6. But remember, this is like a -1 here. So to get y by itself, I need to divide both sides by -1. So we get y is equal to -6 divided by -1 is +6. So that's supposed to be a 6. Y is equal to 6. So when x is 1, y is 6. So now I have 2 points. And if I were to have my rectangular coordinate system just for this first line, I could then say, okay, when x is 0, y is 3. When x is 0, y is 3. So that would be like maybe 1, 2, 3. So maybe like right here. Okay, and here's, I'm trying to make a point here. Okay, and then when x is 1, go over 1, y is up 6. So 4, 5, 6. So when x is 1, y is 6. That would put me like right here. So then I could, now that I have 2 points, any 2 points create a straight line, right? So then, you know, forgive my lack of artistic skills, but we should be able to draw a straight line through our 2 points. And that's one of the 2 lines, okay? Remember, this was just equation 1 right here. So then equation 2, remember, from the beginning, I know I cleared it out to save us some room for drawing here, but equation 2 was x, yikes, okay, cross that out. I'll go down here and write it a little bit nicer. Equation 2 said x plus 2y equals -8. And so then what I did over here with the XY table is exactly what you're going to do with equation 2. You'll make the XY table and find 2 pairs of points like I did, and then draw that line. And where the 2 lines cross, if they do in fact cross, will be the solution to your system. So over here, you want to make that XY table. And again, maybe you let x be 0. And you plug in 0. It's supposed to be a 0 there. Plug in 0 up here for your x. And you simplify and see what your y is. And then maybe you let x be 2. Or whatever value you choose. Maybe you choose 1. Maybe you choose -1. And plug it up into here, into this equation, and solve for your second y. And once you get those two pairs, you should be able to draw the graph and see where they cross, if they do in fact cross.